Okay, so I guess it's good that this channel is called Rambling Mama because I can't seem to stick to one topic. But, okay, so during postpartum, I got really obsessed with psychics, near-death experiences, mediums, and true crime. I'm guessing I don't know, if I add all those things up, it's just like the extremes of human experience. And I guess going through postpartum depression was like a very extreme thing. So I guess whatever, it is what it is. But so I learned about the Chris Watts case years ago, like everybody else. I learned about it from JCS, Jim Can't Swim, which is such like the most amazing true crime show on YouTube I've ever seen. Maybe best true crime show I've ever seen, full stop. And what I loved about it, and I'll link it all down below, even though I'm sure everyone here has heard about it, is it introduced me to, I got obsessed with like interrogation tapes and stuff. And that interrogation tape, plus, there's all of this body cam footage of Chris Watts, and you can really observe his behavior. And I've also been really into the Behavior channel, and I'll also link their channel down below. They're also amazing, the best of the best. And I wish Jim Can't Swim would come back. I know everybody feels that way. Anyway, the thing that struck me the most about the Chris Watts case, in addition to just like how insane it is, how tragic it is, like the same reason that everyone kind of who's in that world gets obsessed with it, is how freakishly chameleon-like Chris Watts is. Meaning, he could be one way with his family. He's totally this like family guy. Shanann saying like he's the best thing that ever happened to her. And then another way with his mistress. And obviously this isn't that big of a deal. Like a lot of people lead double lives and like have mistresses or unfaithful, whatever. But you really see in the interrogation of him that like he's not okay with being a murderer until they kind of make it okay. And they make it okay by saying like, basically suggesting that he killed Shanann, or he was doing something to like help protect Shanann, and he was hiding that from the interrogators. Basically they were doing I forget what it's called, like ego up technique, where they build him up, which has to be the hardest technique to use when you think you're dealing with an actual guilty person who killed his entire family, and you're kind of like stroking his ego. Anyway, it worked like tremendously with him, and he suddenly became okay with being a murderer because it was suggested that maybe he was doing it as retribution. And then he comes up with this whole story on the spot that he then lies to his dad about, etc., etc. So I was just so fascinated when I first saw it, thinking about how this guy is totally like without a core, like I don't know what some people call like a non-player character or whatever. Nicole, his mistress, was all about how she was sad that she wasn't going to have all these firsts with him, that if they got together, it was going to be his second marriage and his second family. He had his first wedding with Shanann. He had his first child with Shanann, his first daughter and second daughter with Shanann, and his first son, Nico, the unborn child, was also going to be on the way. So, like, whether or not she was an accomplice, I feel like this idea that she had about like never being able to get his first back for all those things, which is such an ego thing for her. Like it reminds me of like you know, the girl in high school or the guy in high school who like wants to take like a girl's virginity or whatever, and he gets all butthurt if he can't be the one. It's, you know, and I think she was like 27 or something, which is still young, but like, anyway. So Chris, being the like scary, coreless sponge that he is, I'm guessing, soaks this up, and he's like, well, I know how to kind of wipe the slate clean and make it so that we're the first. You get all those firsts with me. Because if you think about it, nothing else makes sense. Like, you can get a divorce, and you can even be a good guy and get a divorce. You can pretend like it's just not working out between the two of you, and you're not happy, and you've got all these money troubles, etc., etc. Like, you don't have to admit you are having an affair if you don't want to be with this person anymore. You can easily get a divorce. You don't have to like go homicidal on everyone's ass. So like, that doesn't make sense to me. The whole money thing, I can kind of understand how you feel like you're drowning in debt and stuff, but like, I don't know, man, like having an extended family, like say Chris goes off and starts a new family with Nicole, that's now like more breadwinners in the whole equation. And I know that like people don't think about it this like logistically as I do. Like, they don't consider murder like that. But yeah, so I don't know. It strikes me that if, and I forget what the behavior panel called it, something like, I think they suggested he was a sociopath. They never like diagnose people because they always say like they're not trained to do that. But you know, the personality type that kind of is good at like charming people and getting along with people, and like they almost have to study people like a math equation and figure out like what people like and what to do and like how to react, like how normal people react and all this stuff. Yeah, it's reptilian, like the way he is, like that he could be a family man 1 second and the next second like this cold calculating killer who could do that to his children. And that's the part of the case that sticks with me, that he was this like almost like soulless person lurking in the midst of all these like good regular people. And the fact that he didn't even have that self-awareness about himself is even creepier. Like, you know, the whole like, ha ha ha, I'm a serial killer, like waxing the mustache thing, you know, like your Ted Bundys, and certainly like Richard Ramirez, like he really got off on that stuff. But it was different with Chris Watts, because it seemed like he really doesn't even have the capacity to understand it's wrong, except for when people find out about it. Like, how people perceive him is way more important than like the reality of like murdering his daughters with his bare hands, murdering his pregnant wife with his bare hands, putting her in a shallow grave, putting his girls in an oil tank. Like, somehow that to him is not as bad as people knowing about it. That's my whole point, is that is so creepy. And it doesn't even seem like it was because like there's this self-preservation thing that kicks in with people, right? Where they don't want to go to jail and they're fighting for their lives. It wasn't that with him, though. From what I could tell, what it looked like to me was he was terrified of people thinking that he was a bad guy. crazy.